Milton and Montford is a neighborhood in East Baltimore. The population is approximately 2,300 people. The area was once considered middle class. However, in the last century, the community has experienced economic depression, housing abandonment, and increased crime. The residents are largely poor and working class African Americans. The median home value is $105,000. 65% of the residents are renters, and the median income is $28,000.
The many people that used to be in the neighborhood, they're just not here no more. I mean, it's like now when you walk around, it seems like it's slowly but surely becoming more and more of a feeling of a ghost town almost. You know, this used to be a very family-oriented type of neighborhood. Everybody, it was a close-knit community, and it felt like a family environment. All the neighbors knew each other. They looked out for each other's kids and each other. See something wrong going on or didn't look right or seemed suspicious, police would get called with the quickness. Now that you have a lot of that older generation that is dying off, unfortunately, we don't really see that because the generations that's coming up behind us, it's different. We used to hear that a lot from our family, how, when we was coming up, we didn't do this, and when a lot of us as youngins, we didn't really quite understood that.
On Milton Avenue, we had a supermarket, we had a five and dime, we had a movie, and we had a bakery. Drugstores around there, shoe shop, cleaners, all that. Martin Luther King got killed. They couldn't understand the concept, you burning yourself out. Some people not gonna allow you to come out there back then in Towson or places like that, because that's where they put most of their police and stuff at, to keep people from coming out there. So you go through here and tear up your own place, and after that, no more supermarket, no more five and dime, no more movie.
Just on this block alone, right down at the bottom of this block, there's a vacant store that's been vacant for years. That used to be the penny candy store, and they used to also sell penny cookies. Like literally penny cookies and penny candy. I mean, that was the thing. All that stuff is gone.
See, when I grew up and came up around here before I went in service, everybody knew everybody. Most of the men worked down Bethlehem Steel Company, so that was a thing. So all the kids knew each other, all the families knew each other, so it was a thing of respect. You might be surprised, this very porch you sitting on, we was with Devin right there in the summertime and watch the wrestling that used to come on from D.C. You can't put them out here now.
Since the death of Freddie Gray in 2015, 2,290 people have been killed in Baltimore City. 200 of those murders occurred in the Milton and Montford community. Men, women, and children have all become victims. 3-year-old Aubrey Faulkner was this year's youngest victim, and 62-year-olds Isaac Caldwell and Grace Jackson were this year's oldest victims. Out of the 200 victims killed in this community, 174 were between the ages of 18 and 50 years old. 9 were under 18 years old, and 17 were over 50 years old.
I had an incident, I was sitting right here, and the young man was sitting right over there. I said, excuse me, can I help you? No, man, I'm good. I said, you're not good. I said, because I got eyes, and you're pushing something in that drain. It was a bag of drugs. So when I told him you can't put it in here, he tells me, you don't own the street, and you're not that bad. I said, I didn't say I was bad. I just said, you can't put your drugs in there. Lucky enough, some of the kids that grew up around here came up the street and seen him. And they asked what was going on. I told them, and they told me, man, don't mess with this man. Man, don't mess with nobody,
Academics argue that the change that is so desired must start within the neighborhood.
We clearly need to have opportunities and pathways for change for people who want to change, right? But I also believe that there are individuals in the community who have drawn a line in the sand and said that I understand that there may be a pathway to change, but I choose criminal enterprise. And when I say criminal enterprise, I don't mean spontaneous violence, even though that is unacceptable as well. But I'm saying there are people in the community who are saying, I make money off of bringing guns into the community. I make money off of selling drugs in the community. I know law enforcement is watching me. I know the community members are watching me. And even with all of that, I still plan to push the line on what I want to do, right? Because I like it. The community has to make a decision as to what will be our role in addressing those individuals.
If I see a guy take 5 handguns and put in the trunk of his car and he drunk, and I call up and I tell him, and I say he parked across the street. The police had a custom of coming to your house, talk to you, and then go lock this person up. So what does that mean?
I think part of it is the community associations and law enforcement collaboratively working together in a way that doesn't make community members vulnerable who want to address the issue. But I think it also means a trusted long-term commitment from the state's attorney's office through victim services, which is happening through public safety and law enforcement. And I say community oriented because it has to be where there's trust there. So if I share with this law enforcement partner that someone in the community saw the murder, we can't have the community hearing that 3 days later that person's house gets shot up. And the rumor is that information was leaked inadvertently by someone in the law enforcement, on the law enforcement side.
The term collective trauma calls attention to the psychological reaction to a traumatic event that affects an entire society. Collective trauma does not only represent a historical fact or event, but a collective memory of an awful event that happened to a group of people. Symptoms of collective trauma include rage, depression, denial, and survivor's guilt.
Well, I do think that living in particular environments, you're traumatized, right? You're traumatized by the environment, different things that may happen. We are sometimes people that we are confronted with are coming from disassembled communities sometimes. And so that creates trauma. We see individuals coming in dealing with the trauma of losing someone due to homicide, in addition to past and other current trauma. So we're seeing individuals come in with layers of trauma. It's almost like peeling an onion back. We start to deal with the homicide, but in the homicide, other traumas really start to come out.
The thing that drove me the worst is the deaths. Being in the military, you expect it. Guys in Vietnam experienced it. Guys over in Afghanistan and all the places over there, they experienced it. But here, when I grew up in these same neighborhoods, we didn't have a killing, a shooting or something. That was, something.
These kids these days is being exposed to so much, man, that is mentally scarring them for the rest of their lives. Can you imagine you just sitting there holding a regular conversation? You ain't even 15 yet. Somebody just come right out the blue and blow your friend's brains out right in front of you. That stuff is real, stuff you're seeing on TV, that stuff is being played out in real life. It's being played out in real life right before a whole lot of people's eyes, brother.
What for me is weird, like going to school with some people, like seeing them every day in school, and then one day they're just like gone, and you just know that they're not coming back to school. And it's not because they dropped out. It's because they gone. They're not coming back nowhere. And it's just weird. It's just a really weird feeling, and a feeling that I wish on nobody, but that's how it is here.
I feel it's the violence worse because I see it. I talk to people every day when they get out. They terrified.
If they don't do something pretty soon, a lot of it's gonna be vacant because a lot of people can't afford to move out the neighborhood. So they kind of stuck. Shooting going around in the area. You don't want your kids up in that area, but hey, you can't go nowhere.
From this block, I've been living around this block my whole life. My brother died in this block. I I was young. I was like 9 years old. My little ass was sneaking in the swimming pool late night. And I walked up the street, somebody tried to hold me back. I knew what was happening. And I ran in there, and I ran up there, and I seen my oldest brother laying in the alley. Yeah, and I was like 10, so I seen violence my whole life.
Yeah, police was chasing these guys in the car. These guys, they was hauling. I mean, just speeding through like they was on an open highway. And they ran smack dead into a friend of mine while she was in her in her driver's seat, parked, ran right into her and killed her. She was a very known young lady in the neighborhood. Grew up. Me, my sisters, everybody in the neighborhood pretty much knew who she was. She was very outgoing, loving, Her name was Crystal.
I'm not doing the killing. But look, when you don't do nothing at all about it, you part of the problem. So again, tell the first responders to clean the fucking blood up, man. Clean the blood up, least they can do. And you wonder why the children are becoming desensitized. Kids got to walk past and see this blood on their way to school and can't even stay focused in school because they got to see this blood because the first responders have become desensitized.
The phone rang, so as I opened the door, I grabbed the phone and I'm like, hello? And I heard screaming in the background. It was my middle son telling me to get back to the playground. Darius had just got shot. My heart dropped, everything dropped. Got my husband, got my son, got my nephew, put them in a van. We got back to the playground. When I got to the playground, it was crowded. I couldn't even get to my son. Police and everything was there. They stopped me, asked me who I was, so forth. I told them I'm just trying to get to my son. So my sister and my husband had to, explain to them, who I was and what I was. So by the time I got over to him, they were already putting him in the ambulance because I knew, because I'm a nurse, by the time I seen him, I knew he was already gone because there was no motion. They put him in the ambulance. They were working on him. I actually got back in the van with my sister and the kids. We beat the ambulance actually to the hospital. So by the time we were getting out, they were actually pulling up. They were still working on him. They took him. I ended up going straight, in through the shock trauma emergency part with them, and they took me upstairs. The police came. They took me in a little room, started asking me all types of questions and so forth. They were working on my son. The doctors came down, explained to us, the injuries of where he got shot at was real severe. They don't know if he was going to make it or not. They told me he had died 3 times before they got him into the hospital. By the time they got him into surgery, he was already gone. So they had, brought him back, into the room. So, I could say my final goodbyes and so forth. That was the worst feeling ever. I don't wish that on nobody, but that took a toll out of me because it took a while for me to actually get myself together to realize that I wasn't gonna have my son back, but dealing with being a mother of 2 other kids and also my stepdaughter, but I don't call her my stepdaughter, my daughter. I had to realize I was gonna have to be strong, but I dealt with it with my husband, my sister, then had to start therapy, and it was a lot. Dealing with being a mother, losing a child, my firstborn, so young, but I dealt with it. I've been dealing with it for so long. It's kind of hard,
He cried because he knew that little young brother. You see what you doing with these brothers, man? You breaking real men hearts. Because you sick and you need some help. And we got to continue to love you in spite of us. But look at those young brothers. He on his way to school, bruh. Look at his blood, man. This little young brother was a good little young brother, man.
It's like we don't have nobody most men, we don't have nobody to talk to and stuff like that. That's why so much we quick to fight. Because the things we've been through is inside, and it's bottled up.
Man, I wish I had the magic answer, but it's gonna take the parents, the school teachers, and Justice Department. You lock a guy up. Oh, this guy, they go back, look at his record. He had 2 prior gun charges. He had an assault charge. He had a burglary charge. And each of them charges, he didn't spend no more 1 or 2 years. So, hey, I could do that, you know. But if they start taking some of these youngins that doing these violent crimes, and like the feds got it should be here too, a mandatory 5 years on a gun. So if you get locked up and you get convicted, you automatically got that 5 years to what the judge, put on you. But there's a joke here. These kids, guys around tell, man, I beat that man. That wasn't out, They made it too easy for them.
The only answer to this madness that's going on not only in Baltimore but all over to the world is God. That's how I strongly feel about that. Some people are timid to speak about God in front of other people. They think it's not the modern day way of thinking. Like it's played out. They feel like you're trying to be a dinosaur. So it's like the generations coming up behind us want to throw the old school values out the door in the trash. And that's where the mistake, I strongly feel that's where the mistake comes from. You throw the old school values and morals and stuff out the door, the kids can't help but to grow up out of order. And so therefore we'll have a reflection in the neighborhood.
On July 23rd, Baltimore City Mayor Brandon Scott announced a plan to reduce violent crime by 15% for the next 5 years. However, on November 28, 2021, there was a second mass shooting in the community, during which 7 people, including a 16-year-old, were shot. Several attempts have been made to contact District 13 Councilman Antonio Glover, phone, email, social media, and even BCPD Comstat. All attempts were unsuccessful. This may explains why the community has little faith in their political leaders.
I guess if you want to look at it from a political, this is somewhat of a political viewpoint. I guess,
The government doesn't help. The government doesn't help at all. They say as long as we got them in this so-called ghetto, just like the Nazis did during World War II, had the Jewish people in the ghetto where we can contain them and control them, And if they kill each other, it's not a big thing.
And these city councilors, these mayors, they not doing their job. They ain't talking to the people. They chasing a paycheck.
Well, man, I hope I said something that you need or could help somebody. I appreciate the effort because you go down City Hall sometime and they won't let you talk. They won't let you talk.
According to theory, there are no safe, poor neighborhoods. The Milton and Montford community proves this theory. The community has an abundance of vacant houses, vacant lots, liquor stores, and fast food carryouts. In comparison to Brewers Hill, Hamden, Homeland, and other affluent communities throughout Baltimore City, the disadvantages are immeasurable. Despite the problems within the community, many of the residents have not given up hope. They are standing their ground and remaining optimistic about the future of their neighborhood.